Hey everybody, Daniel Kaplan here. Super excited for this video because I'm going to be breaking down a case study of scaling a wholesale business from $0 to a couple hundred grand a month in assignment fees. And this specific case study will be about me and how I built my business from the ground up during a 2-year runway while also simultaneously buying 103 units across Wisconsin, Alabama, and Texas. P.S. I've never seen any of those properties in person. And hey, the best part, doing this all while a full time college student with zero prior real estate experience, zero mentors, zero coaching, nothing from the ground up to that threshold. So I started off as a freshman in college, itching to find a way to make money in real estate, but more so just make money, period. And side note, I thought crypto was going to be that trajectory, but I lost like 30 grand doing so. It's a story for another day. But I ended up determining that real estate was the path I wanted to take, but I didn't know how. So, like any other genius college kid who wanted to start entrepreneurship, I started scrolling on Instagram. And miraculously, I came across the Section 8 niche. I knew, or kind of at the time, I thought that that was the route I wanted to go. It's all I wanted to fixate on. So I partnered up with one of my buddies who thankfully had more money than me. And boom, we were off to the races. Don't ask me how, but somehow we decided on Birmingham, Alabama as the market of our choice. And to note, I was at school in Wisconsin. I'm from Chicago. My partner is from Boston, but yet we chose Alabama. Luckily, it was a really good decision. One of the lowest property taxes in the whole United States. The price to rent ratio was absolutely unheard of. And it was easy for Section 8. I had found some connections. Unfortunately, Birmingham's a little bit more challenging with Section 8. I can dive into that another day. But, anyways, let's roll. Let's talk about building this business. So, fast forward 3 months later, I ended up buying my first property. And it's this beautiful thing right here in good old Birmingham, Alabama. So, the address 2113 31st Street, Ensley. As you see in 2022, we bought it for about 50, and hey, now we're renting it for 1,200 to 1,300 bucks with Section 8. And as you can see in the pictures, you can Google the address. It's a pretty nice property. We bought this thing for about 50. I think it was actually 42 because we got like 8 grand in seller credits for the roof, put in 17 grand of work, and hey, now it's worth 100 to 120 grand. And it was honestly, I am very fortunate. It was a home run deal, unbelievable property. And ever since that, I was hooked. But I bought that first property, and now I was like, shoot, I've got no more money. What do I do now? I don't want to just sit there and keep saving the money to buy the next one. So that's where I found the rabbit hole of wholesaling real estate. And just like earlier, right away, I was hooked and I was obsessed. This was all I focused on. So I watched all the content, I watched all the YouTube videos, and I just decided, hey, I need to hit the phones and start dialing. I need to move forward. So I pulled a list off PropStream, I think. I bought a dialer. It was Badge Dialer at the time, and began hitting the phones. And no joke, 6 months, 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, I was dialing. And after that, I finally got my first deal. And this was in college, just in my couple hundred square foot apartment, hitting the phones. And hey, I ended up making 12 grand on my first deal. And that was all the validation I needed. I knew it was possible. I am living proof of it. But I knew something needed to change. 6 months, 7 to 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not sustainable. I'm not going to make enough money doing that. So I needed to change something in my business. And somehow I get this I get blown up all the time on Facebook, but I got this random message from a guy. He followed up with me like 10 times. So I thought, you know what? I'll give this guy a chance. I got on the call with him, listened to him speak. I heard his accent. I heard his English. I heard his real estate skills. And I was starstruck. I was like, oh my God, this is the route. I told him, I was like, oh my God, if you can get me like 4 other people as well, let's get rolling. I'm ready right now. And after that, I was off to the races. So from there, on a 12-month sprint, I went from doing one deal every 6 months to now doing 10 plus deals per month, averaging like 100 grand plus in assignment fees per month. And this was kind of as I was getting towards the end of my college career. And hey, I'm a big believer in people lie, numbers don't. And I'm going to actually show you the receipts. So right now it's September 1st. These were a couple of deals that we got towards the end of August. So I thought I'd show them as a quick case study. So first one is this Novation right here in Hesperia, California. We got it under contract for $345, $250, and we turned around and listed it for $475. And I actually think I have the address right here. Is this it? Yeah. So here's a listing. As you see, it was listed 7 days ago, and pretty nice property. We should net probably 110 grand off that deal. And another deal that we got, and this one is already under contract, is we got it with the seller for 175, listed it for 238, and I think we got a buyer at 225. And hey, that is this property right here, as we see listed 11 days ago. And this is not the nicest property I've ever listed. But anyways, on that deal, it should be about 50 grand. And then we also have a flip that we got and are set to close. It was supposed to close on Friday, but unfortunately the holiday weekend, things got messed up, so it'll actually close tomorrow. But as you see, I bought this thing for $264 on 5/7. 2 months later, I listed it for $450, and I think I put in like 30 or 40 grand in work. And here is the settlement statement. Again, people lie, numbers don't. On this deal, I should net about 130 grand net of everything. So this deal, 130, this deal about 50, this about like 110. So that's just under about like 300 grand in assignment fees. These are just on 3 deals. There's more than that, but I don't want to bore you with social proof here. Just the reason I show you this is not to flex big checks, but just to show you that, hey, I am qualified to speak on this topic. Here are the receipts to prove it. And don't get me wrong, I work with people who are doing $1 million plus per month in assignment fees, guys who are doing 700 grand a month in assignment fees, who use our service. They are doing better than me. They are more qualified. I'm lucky enough where I get to learn from them and take some tidbits and implement it into my business as well. But the reason I show you this is to show you that, hey, we actually are in the business. We do these deals ourselves. I know exactly what you guys are going through and what struggles you will face. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here like I'm the best wholesaler in the world, because I am not at all. But anyways, I'm going to be walking you through what my A to Z process looks like, what my org chart is, and essentially what happens when a lead hits my CRM and how I turn that lead into dollars. Literally the full step-by-step, everything from underwriting to analyzing deal to my calling framework to my follow-ups. It's going to be a little long-winded of a video, but I'll be walking through that whole thing A to Z for you guys. So let's dive into it. I just paused. Hopefully that didn't mess it up. But anyways, let's dive into this. So I've got a very long-winded breakdown showing the full A to Z of this process. So very excited to dive into this. So firstly, I'm going to just kind of show you what my team's org chart looked like before I dive into like lead comes in, what happens after that. So I have about 9 VAs on the team. And what happens is, okay, those VAs, they are generating the leads. The lead comes in and now goes to my lead manager. So a lead manager, what their job is to further qualify that lead and kind of set an appointment with our closer. So now we have the full story. Hopefully a lead manager derives some more information and they qualified it. Now it gets pushed to our acquisition guys. Our acquisition guys, we typically have like a 30 to 45 minute sales process. I know guys who have 5-minute sales processes, all the way guys at like an hour long. Mine are usually like, I lied, it's probably like 20 to 30 minutes for mine. So it goes from VA to lead manager to acquisition guy. And hopefully we get the deal signed from the acquisition team. But if not, then it now funnels back to our lead manager, who is then going to kind of keep following up with the lead and keep checking in. So a lead manager serves as like doing the initial lead qualifying. Sometimes we even have them do some comping for us. Think of them as like a CRM assistant where they'll help qualify leads, they help follow up. If we can't reach someone, we'll have them do some deep dives to kind of find who the actual like siblings are or their children so we can reach that person. But hopefully the acquisition signs a deal and then it goes to our dispo guy. And we just have a one-man dispo shop. As you saw from the previous 2 listings I showed you, I kind of start to lean towards novations a lot more lately, just because we make more money and it's an easier process and we have more buyers. So that's what the org chart looks like. And now I'm going to be running you guys through this long-winded breakdown of a lead comes in. Here's everything that needs to happen until you make some money in wholesaling over here. So hope you guys get some value out of this. Highly recommend stopping at certain points, taking some notes, and hey, this I don't know how long this video will go for. Maybe increase the speed on it. But anyways, so here's what happens. A lead comes in, the lead hits your CRM. So you can either have a lead manager go and call it, but if you have sub 5 callers, I wouldn't even think about having a lead manager just yet. But the lead comes in and we immediately call. So this is a big piece that we always prioritize is speed and never prejudging a lead. I don't let my acquisition guys even see the notes. Before I had the lead managers, we literally would just have our team immediately call the leads without ever reading it. Because here's why. It wastes time, it creates false certainty, and now you're going to come into that call with assumptions. You're going to think, oh, this lead isn't that great. Oh, this person wants too much money. You got to remember, the VAs here, it is a 5-minute conversation. We're simply scratching the surface. I want to call that lead right away. Do not look at comps. Do not Google the property. Do not listen to the recording. Do not read the lead notes. I call them right away and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I saw you talk to my partner, Laura. I was hoping you could really quickly catch me up to speed on what you guys discussed. Have them give the full story. So if the prospect doesn't answer, we double dial. If the prospect doesn't answer again, we now have a follow-up sequence. So I'll walk through what happens if a prospect does not answer. And in a separate video, I already walked through all this, but this is what we like to call the 7 days of hell. And essentially, here's the reason why we have built this process is because every lead has a dollar sign associated with it. Every lead costs you money. Whether you're using no accent callers and you're using our lead service, or you're going to a PPL company, or you're doing PPC, or you're doing direct mail, every lead costs you money. And you need to take every single lead and hold it with care. You need to cherish every lead. That's why I never prejudge lead. That's why I never disqualify leads, because all those leads cost me money. So if somebody does not answer, I am making fucking sure that they answer the phone. And every single day for 7 days straight, this is our 7 days of hell, is we are double dialing them, we are texting them, and we are leaving voicemails. And we are changing up the copy, changing up the scripts, we're shuffling phone numbers to hit them from different angles. I am doing whatever I can to get on the phone with that prospect, because that lead costs me anywhere from $50 to $500 if you're in like a Los Angeles market. So I need to take care of every lead, because the last thing you want to do is burn marketing dollars. So make sure that you are getting on the phone with your prospect. And I do this, and I know I only wrote it out once, but I do this twice, once in the morning in the AM, and then once in the PM. So I am literally calling these guys 4 times a day for 7 days straight. And you got to remember this, you are not annoying the prospect. You are not doing them wrong. This person has a problem. They have something going on in their life, whether they are dealing with a divorce, a pre-foreclosure. Maybe they're just tired of owning the rental. You are doing that homeowner a disservice by not getting on the phone with them, because I know I can solve their problems. I know I can take them to the promised land and give them this gift-wrapped offer that makes the most sense given their circumstances. I am doing them a disservice by not being able to talk to them. So with this process, we are doing everything we can to get on the phone with them. And that is what we call the 7 days of hell, is we are doing everything we can to get on the phone with them. And hey, if after the first 7 days they don't answer, we have some, and this is why I wrote in GHL, you want to have this built in within your CRM, because human error is a real thing. So after that, if after 7 days I can't reach the prospect, we are doing automated follow-up sequences where maybe it's either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. We are sending them a text and dropping them voicemails. So that's what happens if someone doesn't answer. But if a prospect does answer, we want to kind of go through our script. And here is another, I know I already made a video on this, so I'm sorry if this is repetitive, but the biggest mistake that people make is they'll call the lead and immediately start negotiating price. And that is like the worst thing you could ever do in your sales process. So on that first call, I don't even want to pitch a price. I actually never pitch a price unless I know the price might make sense and they say the number first and it works, then I'll pitch. But 90% of our calls, we do not pitch price. On that first call, we are just trying to get as much information as we can and build rapport. So, something to take into consideration is for us as investors and wholesalers, we are thinking in terms of like the real estate business. We are very numbers oriented. It's very logical. For these homeowners, it is a very emotional sale. For some people, they have lived in this house for 20 plus years. For some people, this house has been passed down from generation to generation. Maybe the person is renting it out to their kid who has been struggling. There is a lot of emotional attachment to that property. So for these homeowners, it is a very emotional sale. It is not a logical sale. So the least important thing in the sales process is the price. Because what you need to be doing is you need to really understand the why. Why are they selling? Our sales process is like this. We are the doctor, the homeowner is the patient. In order for the doctor to prescribe them with a solution, I need to know all the symptoms. I need to know how their head is feeling. Have they had a runny nose? Are they sore anywhere? I don't know what doctors do, but in short, we're asking questions to understand the full story. I need to get the full picture here. I need to understand why they are selling. I need to understand on, hey, what is going on with the property? What's going to happen after you sell the property? If they're living in there, where are they planning on moving? If they don't live in there and it's an investment property, what's the plan with all that investment capital that they're about to recoup? I need to understand the full story before I dive into the numbers, because then I can get all this information, I can underwrite the deal, and now I can hand them a gift wrap present that is the solution to all of their problems and all of the pain points that they laid out on that initial call. So hopefully on that call, and if you take away anything from that, it's understanding the sales process is it's not a logical sale, it's an emotional sale. So price is very important, but it's not the most important thing. You need to understand their pain point. You need the full story. You need to understand what is going on with this property if you want to succeed. So the call ends, and hopefully you schedule another call to have a follow-up call when they want to dive into it. So our after call thoughts is when we underwrite the deal. We have all this information. We know what's going on. I have their timeline. Hopefully I got a price. Hopefully I got some insight on the mortgage and the condition. And now it's time for us to underwrite the deal and understand the numbers so that we can make an offer that makes the most sense here. So after the call, we've got a couple of strategies that we can leverage. So firstly, let's say the seller is realistic and they're interested in selling. And I think that based on that conversation, I can get it for a pretty good discount. We've got two options, and these are always my two favorite options, is a conventional cash deal where, hey, we see the ARV, the rehab, our desired assignment fee, and we've got our MAO. And again, these are just some like quick underwritings on like fix and flips versus doing a BRRRR. And don't worry, you're going to have access to these calculators so that you can underwrite these deals yourself. But essentially, I want to underwrite it saying, hey, what is my max offer? And at that offer price, what would a fix and flipper make? What would a BRRRR investor make? Because you want to have the end user in mind. You want to understand the numbers. And then also, my favorite strategy is novations. So I want to be able to get an offer for both. So let's say, for example, my cash offer is 200 grand. But then my novation offer is, I don't know why it's like that. Okay, boom, sorry. My novation offer is 250K. So again, I'm going to incorporate this in my sales process, but in doing my underwriting, in doing my comps and finding what is this property valued at, what is the condition, I know that I can offer at these two prices where I can still make money. Now let's say the seller wants market value, or call it 100% of ARV. So we've got a couple options here. When a seller wants too much money and they're not willing to sell it for a discount, which is what we want, of course, get these deals for a discount, we can also pitch seller finance. And how that works is, for those of you who are unfamiliar with seller finances, it's, hey, I'll come in at that purchase price. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a down payment up front, and then over the course of however many months, we'll be giving you monthly payments to you. And then again, you'll have access to this calculator to underwrite what is your cash on cash return, what is your ROI with like a long-term rental versus short-term rental, and all this fun stuff that I built for you guys. So you'll be able to dive into underwrite those deals. And then my favorite strategy, and this is what I call turning trash into treasure, turning your dead leads into dollars with agent referrals. So if a seller wants too much money and you get on the phone and the price doesn't make sense, you want to have this in your back pocket. And this is what I call like an agent referral listing. We're not going to tell the seller that's what it's called, but internally that's what we call it. So if the seller wants too much money and seller finance is off the table, which I usually don't like seller finance deals because they're hard to materialize, you've got a couple options with the agent referrals if they want too much money. So if a seller wants too much money, you've got a couple of options. Number one is you can throw a prayer at them, try and lowball, see if it works. Number two is continue to follow up and nurture that prospect. That's probably my favorite one, is just put them in your follow-up sequences. They want to sell, price doesn't make sense, but maybe circumstances change down the line and now they're willing to sell it for a deeper discount. I always love that option. The thing I hate that people do is they just throw those leads away. They're like, that guy wants too much money. It's not worth my time. This is the biggest mistake you'll ever make in this business. So my favorite thing is what I like to call agent referral listings. And I've got a deeper dive on this. So if someone wants 85 to 100% of their value, that lead right there sucks for a wholesaler investor, but is gold for an agent. So rather than throwing that lead away, instead, you want to tee up the idea of listing it. And now an agent, they'll make a decent chunk of change. So for example, let's say the seller wants 400K, right? So seller wants 500K for his property. It's probably worth like 520. So for us as a wholesaler, my MAO, let's say I need to be at 400K. And this seller is like, no, Daniel, I need 500K or I'm not selling. So now we want to tee up the idea of the agent referral listing. And essentially you position it as, hey, we work with a specialist in your market and their job is to get you the highest amount possible. I hate to say it, at the end of the day, I am an investor. I'm not doing charity work. We need to get these deals at a somewhat of a discount so that we can make money. So instead, what might make sense for you is connect you with this specialist, whatever. I've got a deeper dive on the positioning of that. But in short, we are pitching the idea of working with a specialist. An agent, they're excited because they can list this thing for 520K and get a 3% commission. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I think that's like around 15.8K. I hope that math is right. Okay, I'm going to check because now I'm curious. So 520 grand times 3% is 15.6K. That was close. An agent, they would love nothing more than to get that listing because they see it as, wow, I can make a little over 15 grand on this. For us as wholesalers, we throw that away. We're like, that lead sucks. For them, that's gold. So now you're going to go to a realtor and say, hey, Mr. Realtor, I've got this lead. They are open to listing. They want to be at this price. Are you taking on more listings? They'll be excited. They'll be like, this is a no-brainer. But hey, all I ask is if you could give us 25 to 30% of your commission. This agent is thinking, I don't need to pay for this lead. It's already teed up. They're already ready to list. And all I got to do is pay this guy out of closing? What's the catch? Of course. So it's a no-brainer for an agent. It makes sense for us as wholesalers. Easy way to recoup your marketing spend. The next thing is the seller has a mortgage, and you've got two options. You can structure as a hybrid deal or a sub-2 deal. A sub-2 is where you're just like keeping the existing mortgage in place, and usually it's more of a rental play instead of a fix and flip. And again, here's a calculator diving into what those numbers look like. Feel free to pause if you want to see the numbers. And then a hybrid, which is a mix of like a seller finance and a sub-2. So again, just another tool in your tool belt. So the reason I go through all of these that we have here, all these options, is because you want to have as many tools in your tool belt as possible. Some offers make sense for certain sellers and some offers don't. For some people, the cash offer is perfect because they need cash fast. For some people, they'll want a little bit more money and are willing to wait for it, so innovation makes sense. Maybe they want too much money and, hey, but they are open to the idea of taking payments. That's why we have seller financing. And if they have a mortgage with not much equity, we can tee up a sub two or a hybrid deal. So again, it's just having more tools in your tool belt, because you never want to throw away a lead. That lead costs you money. So these are added ways that you can monetize every single lead. And hey, if all else fails, you have the agent referral listing. And then also you've got your built up follow up sequences. So this is what the acquisition process actually looks like. Is we have all these options. And so on that initial call, we gathered all the information, we built rapport, we built connection. Then internally, we run the numbers. Then on our second call, we actually go through the proposal. And my favorite way of pitching is I price anchor at a lower cash offer. And then I say, hey, we also have, you might qualify for another program that we call whatever you want to call your innovation offer. But then now you have that a little bit higher of a price, but hey, it'll take you maybe an extra month or two versus here we can close in 2 weeks. So that should be what your sales process looks like. Lead comes in, and on that first call, you are just gathering. If you take away anything, just gather as much info as possible. And then internally you underwrite it and you position your offer based on their problems and your solution that you are offering here. So now, hopefully, we present our offer, whether that's via call or via email. And hey, if you have to negotiate, feel free to kind of go back and forth the numbers, understand what is your bottom line price. If it gets rejected, try to renegotiate terms or offer additional exit strategies. And then remember, feel free to just follow up with them. But hey, hopefully after going back and forth, after analyzing all the options, they accept it. So now you're going to generate the contract just by downloading it, filling it out, present it, send it to all parties for signatures. Some option softwares here is like DocHub, DocuSign. All these are the same. It doesn't really matter. But amazing. You ran the numbers. It makes sense. You pitched it, and you have your contract signed. Great. The job's not finished. Now, how can I turn that contract into dollars? So now we'll be diving into what the dispo process looks like here. Okay, so diving into this dispo process, sorry for that quick pause. I've got a video diving into this deeper, really giving a tactical breakdown on all the different dispo strategies. So I'm just going to quickly run through some of the options that we have. Then I highly recommend watching my other video where we dive tactically into all of the different levers that you can pull and actually ranking the dispos from 1 to 8. There's probably only 8 ways to dispo a deal. So for dispo, first thing is you need to gather all of the information. You need to get pictures. You need to run your comps. You need to get a rehab estimate. You need to understand access. You need to understand what the occupancy is. So the goal now is we got the deal signed. Now we got to package up all of the information that we have. So once you have all that, you've got the numbers, you've got the pictures, you know how access is, you know what the occupancy is. Now it's time to kind of create your marketing materials. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to get as many eyeballs as possible, and we are doing some mass marketing strategies so that we can get as many people to see our deal as possible. So feel free to find a way to make your deal look pretty. Like here's a seller finance deal that I had. Here's a hybrid deal that I had. Here was a 10-unit portfolio that I had. Here was a sub 2 deal that I have, just to show you a couple of options. Because a big thing that you want to be leveraging with your dispo process is Facebook. So again, it's nice to have a well-formatted deal because it's easier to read, it's easier to digest. You got to remember, we are in like the day and age of people having zero attention span. So you need to catch their attention. You need to make it easily digestible because if you write a full essay with a lot of nuances, no one's going to read it because they don't have the attention span. And this only pertains to like residential real estate. Commercial real estate, different side of it. But for the resi space, people have small attention spans. Make it as easily digestible as possible so that, again, more people will actually digest your materials. So your marketing materials are created. Now it's time to blast this deal into oblivion. So firstly, you can like JV with someone like myself or JV with another company. If you have a good deal, like I'm always happy to help out. Another thing, which is the free option, my favorite free option is Facebook groups. And so what that is you want to be joining a couple groups, making posts and reverse engineering Facebook groups. So with Facebook, you're going to want to join as many groups as humanly possible. And there are 2 categories you want to stick with. large real estate groups and local groups. So for example, large groups, you want to join every single real estate group that has 50K plus members. And local groups, if I've got a deal in Atlanta, I want to join every single Atlanta group and every Georgia group. And then now I'm going to copy and paste my marketing materials and post it in those groups. So we made the post. Hopefully people are reaching out to us and want some more details on our deal that we have. But then also my favorite strategy is actually what I call like reverse scrubbing Facebook groups. So I'm going to view the groups I joined. And let's say I was in a Georgia group. In the search bar, I'm going to search, for example, Atlanta. And then now I'm going to see everyone else who has posted deals in Atlanta. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see everybody who's engaged with that post and then reach out to them myself. And the philosophy here is if they were interested in their deal, they're probably interested in my deal. So an example of like what some of these groups look like is you've got your broad real estate groups, a lot of members, and then you have your more niche groups like your Georgia groups, your Atlanta groups, and then you want to join the county groups. Again, cast the widest net possible, join as many groups as possible. Then also you've got Facebook Marketplace, and you can also, I don't know if I wrote Craigslist. I've never done a deal on Craigslist or like Reddit, but you can, like it's another option. I just personally have never gotten a deal from it. So use the marketing materials and list the property on Facebook Marketplace. JVing with another established wholesaler. So maybe there's someone in your market who has done more deals, who has more buyers than you, and they just know the market better. I would partner with them, give them a piece of your deal. The caveat here is you're going to make less money because you got to pay them anywhere from 30 to 50% of your assignment fee. So try to move it yourself. If not, feel free to piggyback off of somebody else. And then next, Investor Lift. I already gave a massive deep dive on it, but just the TLDR is the Investor Lift. You have the marketplace side where you make a post and now you can see the deals. You can go on InvestLift and see the marketplace side. People can just like click on it and see the deal. Then we also have email blasting and SMS blasting. So after I finalize the post, I'm now going to email and SMS everybody. My favorite thing is Artemis mode. Essentially, I can go and see my deal right here. So there's the same deal I had. And I can see everybody who has viewed my deal, how many pictures they viewed, how much time they spent on it, and then I can just call them. And I can also see who's viewed deals near me. And then also God mode, where I can pull all active buyers within a 5-mile radius of my property. And then I've got my VAs who just go and call. So again, I'm going through this pretty fast, but I have a deeper dive on this that I highly recommend you watch because Dispo is like the most important part of this business. The next thing is realtors. You can like reach out to top performing realtors and offer them like a referral fee. And then also with this that I didn't mention here is you've got flat fee listings and you've got novations. So flat fee listings is like you just pay like $200 to $500 to list it. No agent parentheses. So you're not using an agent here. Novation is you just list with an agent and then you pay a commission. Pay a percent. So 2 options there. These are my 2 favorite options. Again, I dived deeper into this earlier. So for rent ads, you can reach out to for rent ads because, hey, these are probably investors and they might want our deal as well. Cash buyers list, you can pull it on God mode and then you start calling and emailing all those people. So with this, you're taking in as many buyers as possible. And now when you have somebody interested, this is very important, is you want to diligently vet your buyers because the last thing you want to do is waste your time or your deal or even lose your deal by working with an unqualified buyer. So you want to actually be vetting them out to prove that this person's actually solid. So how many deals have you bought in the last 3 months? How many units you own? Do you have any proof of funds? How are you financing? How fast can you close? You want to vet them out and ask the right questions. If they're not interested, hey, add them to your CRM and get their buy box. If they are interested in moving forward, get that assignment or contract sent. So download it, fill it out, send, assign it, send your deals to the title company. And if you need, you can have a TC who will help you opening escrow and handle the whole title process and then get your deal assigned. So I hope this was of some value, diving into like what this whole process looks like. I hope the biggest takeaway is this, is it's a very emotional sale. You need to understand the seller's pain points, and then you want to craft them a solution. But again, this is our process. So lead comes in. If they don't answer, we follow up. If they do answer, we break down the story as much as possible. We want to tailor an offer that makes sense based on their problems. we get a deal signed. We want to make it look nice and pretty and then post it as much as possible so we get eyeballs on it. And again, this is not theory, as I've shown you over here. This is what we actually do in our business. And this is what has allowed me to scale from doing a deal every 6 months to now scaling up to this threshold here. So I hope you got some value out of this. I hope you can take away some tidbits that you can implement into your business. But again, this is what I have leveraged to scale my wholesale business to buy as many rentals as I have bought now and continue to scale from here. And this process has been refined over the course of the last 4 or 5 years now, whether working with the big dogs who are doing millions a month, or even working with some smaller teams where I can learn from them as well. So I hope you got some value out of it. I hope you leverage some of these skills that I laid out here. And hey, I know a lot of people are not going to make it 35 minutes into this video. If you did, I can tell you probably will succeed in this business. Shoot me a message. I'm like very active on Twitter. Highly recommend give me a DM. I'm always happy to help out because I know if any of you guys reach out to me on Twitter, you actually have an attention span and made it all the way through this video. So again, hope you got some value out of this. Hope you learned a thing or two and hope you guys get to crushing it.